My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Guitarist Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.guitarist.com. We're speaking to a good friend of mine, Rowan Robertson. I've interviewed you a few times in the past. It's been a number of years, Rowan, and I was thinking about what are you doing, and I looked up on your Facebook page, and I see you have a new band, Custard Pie. So let's get right into that. How long has the band been together?
Well, it's not really a band, Jason.
Okay.
It's a project that me and Les Warner did.
Okay.
I'm sorry, buddy.
That's all right. That's all right.
I just ate some chips before you called. And
hey, there you go. Yeah. That's all right.
Anyway, yeah, it was a pandemic sort of rock project that me and Les Warner did.
Oh, wow.
And he played on the Electric album from The Cult.
Okay, yeah. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's great album. And then a friend of mine turned me on to a singer in India called Girish Pradhan, who sings for a band called Girish and the Chronicles.
Wow.
If you haven't heard them, they're excellent. And so I got in contact with him, and he said, "Oh yeah, man, let's do something together." So we wrote some music here, and then sent him the stuff, and he sang on it, and we only ended up doing 3 songs because Girish has been signed to Frontiers Records.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, with Girish and the Chronicles. So I'm really happy for them.
Yeah. Now, now, with that being the case, let me ask you: is this an ongoing project? Because I imagine this is something that you started. You got these 3 songs already in the can. Is this something you think you could do where you bring in other singers?
Les has mentioned that.
Yeah.
But we haven't really decided. The idea at the beginning also was if we sort of formed a sort of a production team, me and Les, under that name, and then we can apply it to other things as well. But we haven't really decided either way, because if Girish becomes available again in the future, he's such a good singer. I mean, you have to hear this guy.
Well, I'll tell you the real cool thing about this is, like a lot of people. I first became aware of you, of course, from that album you did with Dio back in 1990, "Lock Up the Wolves." Now, just to go back in time for people who may have forgotten, really great story, because even though you just did the one Dio album, I mean, you were like a great new discovery. I mean, at the time, you were like a guitar pro. I think you came over here when you were 17 years old. I mean, just amazing.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, and I still thank Ronnie and Wendy to this day, because all the opportunities that I have
is because of that. I mean,
oh, totally.
And
I was a really good player. I was a really good.
Of course,
shredder.
Yeah, that has something to do with. I mean, you wouldn't even get a gig like that offered if you didn't have that potential.
Well, yeah, thanks. I mean, I think, yeah.
I mean, in fact, I was reading on the Wikipedia today about you that when you heard Craig Goldy was no longer a band, you reached out to the management, and like a lot of people initially, you kind of got like, yeah, well, this is what you had to do, but they ended up getting your package and going with you. So I mean, that just speaks volumes.
Yeah, Ronnie wanted an English guitar player.
Yeah.
That was in my favour.
Yeah.
And then I did the audition, and they were all smiling and enjoying it, and they told me I had the gig after the second audition, and I just did my best.
Yeah.
It's a decent album.
And
it's really good, obviously great songs.
Yeah. And speaking about the Wikipedia, when I went on there today, I was surprised to learn that apparently, of course, the reason you only did the one album because after Lock Up the Wolves is when he went back to Black Sabbath. Now, I was reading on there that apparently you guys had already had a second album in the can that's kind of been shelved and recorded. Have you talked to Wendy about it?
No, that's not true.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No, that's not true. All that happened is when the tour finished and Ronnie made up his mind to go back to Black Sabbath, during that time we got together, I think 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
Just put a couple riffs around, but that was it.
Oh, nice to kind of be able to correct some of the stuff that's out there. But yeah.
Yeah.
And what I'm really excited about the Custard Pie or whatever you do next is, I mean, I've heard the one song, I think it's Fool in Love, and it's got a real 70s kind of classic rock vibe, which people might think, okay, he's going to do something sounds just like Dio, but I dig the fact that you're kind of going for something different, and it's kind of like your own thing in a way. So it's kind of cool that like people saying,
thanks.
"Oh, what is Rowan Robertson? Oh, wow, look, he's doing this. That's pretty cool."
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, it didn't really intend it to be anything more than like a good hard rock kind of song band.
Feel,
like
yeah.
Like if you look at bands like, I don't know, Badlands and stuff like that, Whitesnake and that sort of thing, I suppose. But that song came out of Les's bass riff.
Wow.
He was playing that, and then we just started building it up, and that's just what it turned out to be, really.
Yeah, and is Les somebody you've known up from the music scene for years, or did you just recently hook up with him?
I met him probably about 7 years ago through a bass player called Dan McNay.
Okay. Wow.
And they both played for Ronnie Montrose.
Oh, that's where I know that name. Yeah, and he's actually, I think Dan also plays in Jack Russell's Great White.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dan's a really great player, and we did a few gigs together about 7 years ago. That's how I met Les, with Mitch Perry and a really good singer called Randy. What's his name? He was a singer in Montrose as well. Randy Scholes.
Oh yeah, Randy Scholes.
He's a singer.
Yeah. Well, you've been playing with some of these guys that are like really well kept secrets. I mean, all these guys you're talking about are really super talented, in their own right. And I think it's great you get a chance to play with guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many great players around, and where I am in Vegas at the moment, I'm getting to play with just so many great players. I'm doing this. I'm filling in on a show called Queens of Rock, and the guitar player on that is Chris Brady, who played in Hell Yeah. And
okay.
He's a killer guitar player. And
so what's it like in Vegas? Because we everybody's been locked down for the last year, and I heard Vegas was pretty locked down like everywhere else, but it's starting to kind of come back. What's it like there these days right now?
It's pretty open. On the Strip, after when I drive home after the show, you wouldn't even know it was
closed down. Yeah.
No, other than seeing a few masks around.
And so is it kind of like it was pre-COVID, where a lot of '80s guys are moving to Vegas because, like, for example, what made me kind of think of you again, Rowan, is I seen you do the interview with Todd Kearns, and I know he's from Vegas too, and he was talking about if you come to Vegas, there's always a gig to do. You can just kind of walk in place and find a gig. Is that kind of how it's been for you?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough. First, what brought me here was Raiding the Rock Vault with Howard Leese and Robin McCauley, and which was a great show. And then COVID put that on ice. Yeah. Hopefully it'll come back next year. But since it's opening up, there's been gigs. I got a gig on Friday with Paul Shortino. Oh, cool! I
love Paul. He's a super cool guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Paul's a great guy, and we're doing a set for his birthday at Vamps, and we've just been rehearsing for that just now, actually. Yeah. And the players he's got for that are all killer. The keyboard player is this guy Joey Melody. Yeah.
And Paul Shortino, he's one of those guys too, super talented. I mean, he's one of the few guys I think that and he actually did it. Kind of replace Kevin DuBrow in Quiet Riot. He's one of the guys that's able to do it. The only problem I think is they called that album Quiet Riot, and I don't know if the fans really accepted that, but I mean, if you put that album on and you just kind of listen to it with open ears, it's a super album.
Yeah.
And pretty much any albums he's ever put out, I'm pretty much a fan of. I mean, he's just got a super voice.
Super voice, and a charismatic, great singer.
Yeah, super nice guy.
Super nice guy. Great guy.
And now let me ask you about the show you mentioned you're doing now in Vegas. What is it called? Queens of what?
Queens of Rock.
And who else is in it? Can you tell us a little more about that?
The singer is Elizabeth Diago. She's from Montreal. Okay. And she had a show up there where she pays tribute to females in rock.
Cool.
That have inspired her, like Nancy Wilson. I mean, Hart and.
Okay. Yeah.
Pat Benatar and anyway, so that's a really good show, and the other guitar player James Olson. Okay. The drummers Alex Papa and Zach Throne is the bass player.
Oh, Zach Throne, yeah, I've heard of him. Oh, wow, so you're just super busy, and you have a cool thing about, like, the Custard Pie, even like you said, it was kind of done during the lockdown. I mean, Sammy Hagar just put out an album where he did the same type of thing with his band, The Circle, where they go in and they do these covers, and everybody was kind of like, you know, in a separate studio. And it's kind of, what was that like for you? Because I know probably most of your career, you know, you're always in the studio with the band and stuff. I mean, it's kind of a new way of doing it. I mean, where like one guy's in India, that's got to be super different.
Yeah, it was different. You kind of have to settle on an arrangement at the beginning, because once he sings on it, if you want to change one little thing, it's a lot of work to send files back and forth. But I mean, he's such a good singer, and you just send him something, and he just sends this amazing thing back. He's as good as like. I mean, he reminds me of the sort of the Ray Gillens and the Oney Logans, and
yeah, you know, it's kind of interesting because I was going to say what a great discovery. Not that you discovered him, but I mean in the sense that it's amazing that you do these, you know, these 3 songs with this guy that's recommended to you, and he's already picked up a record deal with Frontiers, which is pretty impressive in his own right. And and I just think, like, when I heard that voice, I thought, you know, I was no clue who the guy was, but I thought, just listening with my ears, like, what a super huge talent this guy is. Wow.
Yeah, and anyone who's listening, do check out his group, Girish and the Chronicles. As you say, they just got signed to Frontiers, which is great for them because they're in India, and what they need to do, they need to get over to the States.
Yeah, is there any chance, you think, through his record deal that they might want to like do a Custard Pie album with you guys, or has there been any talk of that possibly happening?
No. But I did suggest that those guys
listen to it.
might cover "Fall in Love" because it's really catchy, and we wrote it together. And anyway, but they need to get over to the States, and hopefully Frontiers can you know, bring them over.
Oh, that'd be super cool. And you know, another thing I want to ask you about, and I'm pointing this out because you and I were just when we were setting up for an interview about a week or two ago that we're doing today. We were discussing that I went after we were going to set up the interview, which was supposed to be last week, and I went on Facebook. I typed in Custard Pie to see if you guys had like a Facebook page, and what initially came up with was this other kind of Zeppelin tribute. And I'm just putting this out there so if people do what I did, they don't get confused and this isn't Rowan Robertson's band, you know.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. We might well just change the name because we don't want to. We already talked about that. We might just go ahead and change it. And
it's kind of sad because I'll tell you, again, when I initially set up the interview with you, I went in, I was checking out the songs because you were posting the songs for the first time, and I thought, man, the band looks great. It sounds great. Custard Pie, I mean, if you're a Led Zeppelin fan, you know what that's a reference to, but just for a band that's got that classic 70s rock vibe, great name.
Cool. I'm glad you think so. I wanted something because we were going over all these names and we couldn't. The name's the hardest thing for a band. Yeah. It's always the way. Well, he says to me, I gave him a list of 20 names. Oh, they're terrible. He gives me a list of 20 names. Oh, I hate them.
Yeah.
And, well, that one's all right. And then anyway, he calls up one day and he goes, "What about Cluster 5?" Because it was a new strain of the virus.
Yeah.
And I went, "What, Custard Pie?" And he goes, "Oh, that's great. I love it."
You know, I almost kind of like the other name too, only because, you know, it would be a good, like if the band was to be successful at all or have any kind of success. I mean, even like as a reference point in your career, I mean, there'd be no doubt when the songs were made, it'd be like a great reference point. That's something to really think about, you know.
You mean being that it was like a pandemic thing?
Yeah. I mean, you know.
Yeah. We did mark it.
Oh well, that's amazing.
Good reference point. Right on.
And you know, Rowan, what I think is cool too. A lot of guys have been in your position. You know, like even did one album with Ronnie James Dio. They might just try to make their whole career market off of them. You know, like Rowan Robertson's Custard Pie. Like even just watching the video, you seem like you're such a band guy rather than making it all about yourself, which I think is what makes it so cool. Because you obviously got the talent, but you hear what I'm saying, that you want to make the whole band shine, which I think is really gives it a cool vibe.
Oh, thanks for saying. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and you know, let me ask you, because I always wanted to ask you, the fact that you came over to the United States when you're so young, like only 17 years old. I mean, a lot of your influences growing up were. I imagine like the European guitar players of the European bands, such as Sabbath and Rainbow. But what was it like when you came over to the United States? I mean, that had to be a huge difference from growing up in Europe and all the music and stuff you were being exposed to over here when you came over. At 17, that'd be a huge.
Well, it was pretty much the same music.
Okay.
Because I'd listened to the same stuff, and just along that line, I've just been listening to Rising Force and Marching Out and Trilogy and Odyssey. I was such a huge Yngwie fan as a kid, and I'm listening to them again. I'm going, guy's amazing. He's just so brilliant, Yngwie. So I've been really enjoying that, digging back to that again, and I actually got to play. He actually supported Dio on the tour I did with Dio, and
oh wow,
so that was amazing for me to walk on stage and have him hand me his guitar and sound check, and I played it, and I go, this doesn't sound anything like Yngwie.
Wow. And did you ever get a chance to like talk with him or anything off stage?
Yeah, and I went back into his dressing room, and he was practicing and sort of shredding and sitting there, and I went in and sort of respectfully sort of sat there and watched.
Yeah, I heard he's like a student also of Richie Blackmore.
Oh right, yeah. I'm sure he probably does like Richie. Yeah, he definitely loves Richie. And then he hands me the guitar.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you play. So I was like, okay, and I'm like shredding the guitar, and he goes, you remind me of my friend John Norum.
Oh,
and
well.
He starts tearing the guitar apart again.
Wow.
And then I said, do you remember doing an interview with Guitar Player magazine? Well, the guy who did it, Phil Hilborn, he was my teacher.
Oh, wow.
In England. And he goes, I never took any lessons, man.
Yeah, I don't think you need to. Yeah, or it was a long time ago.
Anyway, so sorry, your question.
I was just asking, like,
I was so green in the gills. I was so like naive. But I was from like a village in England, and then middle of LA.
I mean, I imagine from my perspective, kind of what I'm asking is like obviously you're from Europe, so a lot of those European players influence. But like, when you're over here and you're touring with, Dio, and you're being exposed to all these other bands, even some of the opening bands that were on the road with you guys. I mean, because a lot of guys grew up in Europe. Obviously, I notice a lot of European musicians. They love American music, and a lot of American musicians they love the European. Did you get a different taste of the American bands when you came over here than what you thought they were?
Well, I remember a real eye opener for me was seeing how big rock was.
Yeah.
Because there was only like 4 kids in my school of 1,000 that liked like hard rock. Yeah. And they come here, and it's on MTV. It's on, it was like a whole culture, whatever you want to call it. So that was a trip. And I discovered bands like Aerosmith and classic rock radio. More Zepp. I wasn't particularly exposed to Zepp.
Yeah. And you were kind of living what a lot of European kids, I imagine, the dream as far as like not only wanting to grow up and be a famous musician and live that dream, but like you had that dream to go over to America and do it. I mean, and at such a young age, that had to be super feeling of accomplishment,
Yeah, I did. I had that dream as a kid. I used to remember tell my friends in school. I was like, 15 or something, and I was like, I want to go to America. And I remember I wrote about it in a piece for like my English class or something, and I think I really made it happen.
Yeah, I imagine after you'd done the tour with Dio, I mean, you come back home and you have a much higher profile than when you left. Your friends had all these people who never cared about who you were, all of a sudden wanting your autograph and stuff.
No, I don't know about wanting my autograph.
But you know what I mean, yeah.
It was well in England when I went back. It was just still family and friends.
Okay.
So nothing different there.
Yeah.
Obviously it was like a hometown, success or whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm just really looking forward to what you, and I'd be interested. So like, you and Les Warner, who, as you said, is the drummer from the Cult, you're forming like a production team. You guys got a website you're setting up so people can kind of follow what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, actually, just put a website up, and it is called Official Custard Pie Band.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah. And on the subject, I've got a YouTube channel, if I can just plug that.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, it's Rowan Robertson Official. And what I was doing, well, I still am doing, is I put these Dio playthroughs on there. I just did one of night music, you know, so people seem to be asking for those and enjoying them. And I asked Wendy's permission to, you know, use backing tracks and that.
And now let me ask you, how successful has that been for you? Because, you know, it's kind of amazing. We're sitting here talking about an album that's about 31 years old, and it's the only album you did with the band, but it really holds up. I mean, people, like you said, people still contact you, want to talk to you about it, want to, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Ronnie was obviously the
center of the band, but
well, I mean, obviously he was. I don't want to say it, but kind of like the Elvis of metal, if you like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, he was such a legend, and then I got to play with him. So, and then also records back then, especially ones that he made, were really crafted really well, really good songs, really good arrangements.
Yeah, I mean, like anything, I dare say, you know, I got my favorite, you know, Dio stuff, but I dare say you could put on any Dio album, any Dio related album, and it's going to be a good album, you know.
Yeah.
No matter who was in the band, because just the caliber of musicians that were in that band over the years, it's amazing.
Yeah. He was cared about putting out top quality stuff.
Yeah. I dare say, you know, even, I don't know if you heard of Dio Disciples, but those were some of the surviving Dio members, and they got together, and like with Tim Ripper Owens and Oni Logan, and the amazing thing is, first time I went to see the guys like in Anaheim, when they used to have a House of Blues there at Disneyland, I mean, it was like Electric Church. I mean, you had Tim and Oni up there singing all these Dio songs, kind of trading off, and it was like Electric Church. These guys in the band up on stage, they were guys that actually played in Dio, and they were up there doing it like for the love of Ronnie, and the audience and the band were like one. I mean, it was like Electric Church. I mean, I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times and even got up on stage with them once, and it's very moving to see, because the material is so brilliant.
Yeah, and you know, you're an interesting place in life too, Rowan, because I mean, you know, that's a pretty high profile gig, you know, Dio. But again, like I said, you did just one album. You're not maybe as high profile as say like somebody like Rudy Sarzo, and you know, you can still go out there. But how often when you go out, do you get recognized by fans?
Oh no, I don't get recognized. I mean, even in the day, I might get recognized.
Yeah.
Like a couple of times or something, but no.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of cool too, because you have the ability to go out and not kind of get swarmed by people, and still kind of do your thing.
Oh yeah, it was never success on that kind of scale.
Yeah, but it's amazing, because when you stop and think about like even I'm asking about it. Album came out 31 years ago, you know, and how successful has YouTube been for you? Because this other guitar player I've talked to over here is Maxwell Carlisle. He's quite successful in his own right, but he was telling me YouTube just took off for him, and now he's getting all kinds of he does instructional things, and when NAMM was going on, he was getting all kinds of offers to come down every year. Is that kind of the feedback you've gotten?
I've got really good feedback, but I haven't done the sorts of work to the channel that would where I'm trying to get like
endorsements or anything.
Well, trying to get, you know, really boost the numbers up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things I could do, which I haven't done yet. But at the moment, there's a group of people on there that I talk to, and they appreciate me putting up stuff, and I just keep doing it and let it grow organically. So
that's the best way to do it, because I mean, you definitely got a name, and people are aware of who you are. And like I said, I just kind of got reason I reached out to you again is I seen the interview you'd done with Todd Kearns. I thought that was a pretty cool interview, and wow, so that's what he's doing now. And then you hadn't got too much detail about what you were doing with Les, but that's when you started talking about it, and I thought, oh wow, this sounds this sounds pretty exciting. And it's kind of interesting that you're teaming up with a drummer and that, because he's a super talented guy too, and I think really a lot of people just know him from the Cult, but I'd love to see what else you and him do together.
Yeah, I tell you what, when we write together, I mean, just in those 3 songs, I think the quality of the music is really good, the quality of the writing, and he's also a very good musician, and he has a producer's mind, and arranging.
Yeah, I think
and of course, his drumming is amazing.
Yeah,
he actually produced it. They produced that stuff we did. So
yeah, and I got to ask you, as far as the Lock Up the Wolves album, the drummer on there, he's probably one of the Simon. He probably played with Ronnie the longest, but he came from AC/DC, super talented guy. What was it like to work with him?
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, great.
Yeah,
lots of laughs. It was all fun and laughs back then.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting time because when you first joined the band, it was like most of the band that played on the last album, but one by one they kind of left, and then the new guys eventually came that ended up recording on the album. Was that correct?
Pretty much. They brought me in to the original lineup, and then the lineup changes happened throughout the year. Yeah. Until by the time we record the album, it was a completely different.
And you ever heard what happened to the bass player Teddy Cook? He's kind of vanished. And
I used to speak to him on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
Going back a few years now, a good 5 years, but I think he's probably still on there.
Oh yeah, just had to look him up. Like you said, people kind of just get busy doing other. There. Oh, okay, that's cool to hear. And anything else you'd like to let us know about, Rowan, before we wrap it up for today?
I'm doing a lot of different things at the moment. For instance, I'm in a group called DC4 with Jeff Duncan, which I've been in for many years, and he's just gotten us a deal with Heliphonic Records.
Oh, cool!
And he's working on another record, which he's writing the record. I gave him a riff not too long ago that he wants to add in there, but it's that's the deal with DC4. He sort of writes it, and when he's ready with that, so that's probably going to be.
And you briefly were also a member of Bang Tango, is that correct?
Well, yeah, I was touring. I was doing some gigs with them about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So you've kind of been all over. And then we were mentioning Oni Logan, and I know you briefly worked with him. With the Violet's Demise project, have you guys ever thought about doing anything again? Or because that was one of those.
We're still really good friends, and we talk all the time, and we're both really, really proud of that record. Before the pandemic hit, I was actually in the process of re-recording it because we don't own the original, and it would be nice to put those songs out, and we got as far as the drums.
Yeah, because I remember initially when it was kind of originally released as a CD. I forget what label it was years ago, but
it was
But I got it just 'cause I thought this is a nice little thing as a fan to kind of have, and it's one of those projects that I think sadly, like you said a lot of times when you're talking about it in the past, that great album, great project, just the wrong time, when grunge and everything was hitting. If it would came out a little earlier, or like you said, maybe if you do it, but it comes out the right way, or people hear it now, they'll hear it with fresh ears,
It would just be, you never know. It would just be nice that get those songs out there, because we took a long time writing them, and they're really interesting songs.
So is that one of those deals you're telling me where the label, whatever, kind of, they own the rights, so if you guys want to do it, you got to kind of re-record it?
They own that. They own the
original
recording. Okay. The recording, so we can re-record them if we want.
That might be a thing to do. And the cool thing is, as you probably know, Oni, I don't think he's really tied down with Lynch Mob anymore, because George has decided he doesn't want to call the band that anymore. So that would be a cool thing if you guys could get that out there, even like you said, just for the fans to hear.
Yeah. I intend to.
And super talented guy. And another guy you were mentioning that throughout here, like Ray Gillen, he died way too young. But I tell you, another one of those guys, super talented. Yeah. Is there anybody like that you would like to work with? You think before you?
Oh, there's so many there's so many people out there. I can't really
pick one. Yeah.
Yeah, can't really think off the top of my head, but there's so many great players and singers out there.
Well, before we let you go, Ron, I just have a couple more questions. I was going to ask you now, in regards to the man you replaced in Dio, Craig Goldy. Have you ever met him, like, or had a chance to?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. All the way through, I met Craig right at the beginning, and oh yeah.
Yeah, because he kind of has a similar style, kind of like, I mean, he's an American player, but he plays kind of with a European flavor, kind of like Richie Blackmore. I guess that's why Ronnie picked him, you know.
Right, yeah, no, he's very influenced by Richie Blackmore, yeah.
And how big of a Blackmore fan were you?
Oh, huge. In fact, that was him and Angus were the first two when I wanted to start playing metal, hard rock. It was Richie and Angus.
Oh, that's amazing, because, you know, Richie, I mean, I love everything he's done from Deep Purple, Rainbow, and you know, I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if you've heard what he's doing now with his wife, Blackmore's Night. It's much different than Rainbow or Deep Purple, I'll tell people, and his publicist sent me a CD a couple years back, and I was kind of skeptical, but I said, oh, well, okay, to be fair, I'll listen to it. And again, it's not Deep Purple or anything like that, but I was amazed, because I was expecting to hear, like, kind of folk type music. It's kind of that, but it's got a little bit of a rock and kick. So I tell people kind of listen to it with open ears, because you might be surprised.
Right on.
And you know, I always love Richie, because I mean, he's such a rock star, not just his playing, but you know, like I seen video of him like smashing his guitar on stage and getting pissed off on stage. It just has a total rock attitude, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Ronnie used to say.
Yeah.
Ronnie used to say
a lot of things.
Well, one thing I remember him saying, I don't know how he would stand by it, but he said it. He says everything I learned to do,
and what not to do
from Richie. No, everything I learned to do, I learned from Richie. Everything I learned what not to do, I learned from Richie.
Oh wow, that's interesting. And now, in regards to Ronnie, because I know before you hooked up with him, you were a fan. Were you equally a fan of Rainbow as you were of what he did with Sabbath?
No, because I wasn't exposed to Rainbow.
Okay.
Yeah, I had Heaven and Hell, but I didn't have a lot of records as a kid.
Yeah.
A lot of metal.
Because I love everything Ronnie ever did, but I will tell you, I got a special place in my heart for the Sabbath stuff, especially like Heaven and Hell, which was just reissued as was the Mob Rules, and nice little packages for fans to get. But I'll never forget the first thing I ever heard off that album was Neon Nights, and I mean, ever since then I've been a Ronnie fan.
Yeah, me too. I love that album. It's got such a wonderful feel to it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's got to be bittersweet for you, because I mean, you know, you got a chance to play with him on the one album. I mean, that's more than a lot of people ever get to live, you know. But and you kind of got the thought of, you know, what the band could have become with that lineup. But you got one album, and it's very special. But I kind of think, you know, too, Ronnie going back to Black Sabbath, maybe that's the way he was meant to end his career, because of everything he's done. I think that was the stuff I think was closest to him, you know.
Yeah, and well, I don't know, but it was certainly good to see him back in the big stages at the end. Yeah, and what I loved about that too is because maybe at the time you were working with him, he wasn't on such good terms with those guys, and I understand it was actually Geezer that showed up at a Dio gig, and they rekindled their friendships, which is kind of nice to say, well, okay, at least they didn't die hating each other. They died, you know, as friends. Oh yeah, Geezer really stood by his side through his illness as well.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, Ron, because like you said, you remained friends with Ronnie, you know, and Wendy, but you know, do you remember how you learned of his death? Like everybody else, you kind of just heard about it on the, you know, internet, or did somebody contact you?
Well, I was in pretty close contact
with them.
With Oni.
Yeah.
With Oni. Because he was very much in that inner circle at that time, and still is.
Well,
so pretty much, you know, and I did email Ronnie toward the end, and he sent me a nice reply.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Rowan, my friend, thanks for taking time to do this. Like I was saying, the interview will go up in early June. I'll let you know once it's posted, and let's keep in touch. And since you and Les are going to have this ongoing production projects, anytime you want to promote anything, reach out to me, and I'd be happy to help you guys spread the word about it.
Well, I appreciate it, Jason, and good to speak to you again.
Okay, take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Cheers.